Thank you so much, Jenny, and thank you to Elizabeth. It's a real delight for me to be here to co-host this reception with my NDP colleague and my Green Party colleague, and of course I am the Liberal Member of Parliament from Scarborough North. 大家好，我很高兴见到你们. I'm so delighted to see all of you, and I know my Liberal colleagues Jun Yip and Gang Tan are here as well. You know, folks, we are so blessed to have this gathering and to have all of you in this room today. And in fact, this issue for me began over 10 years ago. And I'm someone who is of Chinese descent but who grew up in Canada and never learned the history of Nanjing or the Comfort Women. It was only in 2007 when Dr. Joseph Wong, the founder and chair of Alpha Education, invited me to a movie premiere of The Rape of Nanking in Toronto. And I sat in that movie theater for 2 hours hearing the horrific testimony of Comfort Women survivors. It became very clear to me that this is an issue that I could not stand by and just watch without doing something about it. At the time, I was a relatively new elected school board trustee on the Toronto District School Board. And so I quietly went away and worked on a motion to ensure that this history would be incorporated into our Toronto curriculum, that the board would purchase learning materials, working together with Alpha to educate the educators, because even teachers were not aware of this history. And that is the important project that we have, is to educate our community members, to educate our youth, to educate decision makers, policy makers, so that they understand that this issue is not a political one. This issue is not a political one. It is about acknowledging an historical truth. A historical truth in the same way that as parliamentarians we recognize the genocide of the Armenians, or the Holodomor, or the Holocaust. The Nanjing Massacre and the systematic rape, murder, and forcing into sexual slavery of women, girls, and children before World War II is an atrocity that we all need to be standing up and recognizing. And that is why it is so heartening to see all of you from coast to coast to coast here in Ottawa, in our national capital, taking up this very important issue. And there's more work to be done, because education is not something you do overnight. It is a process, one in which, in the presence of deniers and those that believe that this history has somehow been fabricated, I can tell you, standing with Dr. Wong in South Korea with a group of Comfort Women survivors who wanted an apology, to them this is very real. It is no fabrication. And I thank all of you for being here. This is an important project that will continue for all of us until we can make sure that this is recognized and ensure that those who are unaware of this history become aware of it, because that is the only way the future generations can never repeat the historical mistakes, the horrific atrocities of our shared human past. So I thank you all for being here. I look forward to continuing the work, and I thank you for your strong advocacy and your passion and the care that you put to ensuring that history is known.
Canada envoy report, Shaun this MP Shaun, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Nice to meet you.
So today the floor we discussed this 19 massacre. So what do you feel about today's stuff?
Well, I was very proud to support this motion because it is so important for us to recognize this history. To me, it's about acknowledging truth, acknowledging atrocity that happened
almost 81 years ago that affected hundreds and thousands of lives in the Nanjing Massacre, the comfort women system of sexual slavery that was imposed by the Japanese Imperial Army at the time. And to me, to move forward in a positive way, to find reconciliation, it's not about pointing fingers or placing blame. It's about acknowledging what happened in our shared human history, and how can we take that truth of what happened and learn from it so that future generations never make those same mistakes again. It's the reason why when I first found out about this issue in 2007, when I was a relatively new school board trustee on the Toronto District School Board, I brought forward a proposal that was passed at the school board to ensure the teaching and learning of this history, because we need to ensure that the future generations never forget, that they know this history, and that they become the types of global citizens that will never repeat those mistakes of the past again.
Can you talk about how this issue is important for humanity or peace and multiculturalism?
It's so important, especially in a country like Canada. Canada is home to so many different people that come from all corners of the world. Yes, we have a large Chinese diaspora. They make up about 5% of the population. We have Japanese Canadians that also live in our country. We have people from all different places around the world, and one of the great things about Canada is the fact that we live in that multicultural society. No matter the histories or experiences, languages, or the color of our skin, we are able to live in this global village. So within that cosmopolitan, that mosaic of diversity, we need to understand each other. And these unfortunate parts of our past, I know, for example, my own grandparents, they were there in that war. My grandmother, in fact, my grandmother was traveling from China to India when the war broke out, and the Japanese Imperial Army were bombing civilian ships. Hers was one that was being targeted, but fortunately, her ship was able to stop in Indonesia. So my grandmother, in fact, lived in Indonesia for about 6 years during the war, until the war was finished. Then she continued on to India, where she reunited with my grandfather. My parents both were in fact born in India. So we all have that connection to the past through our families, through our parents, grandparents, our ancestors, and that's an important part of what it means to be Canadian, because you have that linkage to the histories that are attached to your ancestors. We need to know about that. We need to know about that. For me, growing up in Canada, not learning that history of what happened in Asia, other than the atomic bombs, that's not right. When we teach history, we need to teach it from a broad perspective. We cannot be selective in what we learn, because fact and truth are what they are, and they must be acknowledged. So this is an exercise really in reconciliation. It's about acknowledging an historical fact. It's about making sure that future generations can learn from the mistakes of the past, and that is why I am so delighted to be here tonight to co-host this reception along with my parliamentary colleagues from the NDP and the Green Party, to welcome all the different advocates who have come here, because they too believe in that truth.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.